went to Stratford a lot, and when I was in my teens, and I do remember being declaimed to. I remember being shouted at, and I remember not understanding. I remember thinking, ooh, they're talking Shakespeare at me, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And then I remember the performances that stick with me are the ones where you go, oh, they're just saying it, and you know, and that's a real lesson to be taken from it, I think. You know, I remember watching the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
It just absolutely blew my head off, because they were just saying it. I mean, it was filmic, and so you can't get away with the volume that they're speaking at in a theatre. You have to speak up a bit, but they were still saying it. And actually, this is interesting. I did a production of The Changeling with Cheek by Jowl, and that's a Jacobean text by Thomas Middleton, and there's an actor called Will Keane. I don't know if you know him, and he was playing De Flores, which is the great central part, and one of the great sort of villains, if you will, in the classical canon. And it was my first classical job after leaving drama school, and he literally he seemed to break all the rules that I'd been taught about Shakespeare, that you mustn't breathe within the middle of a line, that you have to honor the iambic, that you have to honor feminine endings. I mean, there's all this clutter in your head about it. And he just used to say it. I remember him, there's a line he used to say, because De Flores is supposed to be intensely physically ugly, and Beatrice Joanna is meant to find him repellent, and he just has a soliloquy to the audience, and the line goes, I know this face is bad enough, but I have seen far worse with better fortune. I know this face is bad enough, but I have seen far worse with better fortune. And if you say it a bit quickly, maybe you don't quite understand it. And he just said, I know this face is bad enough, but I've seen far worse and with better fortune. And it was like he just made it up. And that seemed to me to be the way to do it, is just to say it. You know what I mean? And not to declaim it or to sing it or to speechify it. And I think there's sometimes a tendency that people, the producers, directors, actors, think that if they just say it, the audiences won't understand. But that's when they will understand. You know, it's like listening to any music. It takes you a while to get used to the genre, and then you're in. You know. And I suppose if you're sitting in a Shakespearean production, it takes you a while. You're like, okay, wait, we're speaking a bit of a different speed here, and they're speaking a grandiose language. But if you go at a pace, if you get a lick on it, that the audience will find you after about 2 or 3 minutes, and they'll stay with you. But if you slow it down and make it incredibly mannered, you don't know, no one knows what you're talking about.
You see it all the time, or you hear it all the time.
Yeah, you see it all the time, and my experience on Othello was brilliant, because there were a couple of really old masters at it.
Yeah.
James Lawrenson, who played Brabantio, had been doing it for 40 years, and he would just, it's that thing of, I'm making too many words out of this, but speak at the speed of thought. See it as you say it, and think it and feel it and say it all at the same time. And I know it sounds difficult, but I don't think it really is that difficult. Do you know what I mean? And the verse will just take care of itself, because it's like Mozart or anything. It just plays itself as long as you say it right.
So jumping back a little bit.
Is that a good answer? Do you want me to answer that again?
That's a great answer.